Hi guys, my name is Amalu, and I'm an art hobbyist who loves stories and characters. And honestly, I can't believe so many people watched and enjoyed my last Faerie High video. At the time of me recording this, my channel has over 300 subscribers. That's absolutely insane. When I was first writing this script, I thought it was crazy I had over 100 subscribers. Which, again, crazy how fast things move, I guess. But seriously, I really appreciate all the love and the comments that you all left on the last Faerie High video. I'm so excited that so many of you love this concept, and I'm excited to yap about it more. If you didn't watch the last video, don't worry. You can go back and watch it right now. In that video, I introduced the main characters and the kind of basic plot of Faerie High. But essentially, Faerie High is a concept I have for a world that is similar to Monster High or Ever After High, but all of the students are different types or species of fairies. It's also technically an AU of my story Rainy and the Fairfolk, which is set more in the human realm, but that is not as important. All you really need to know is that the 4 characters we're talking about today were originally part of that story. They were going to be fairies in disguise that our main girl Rainy encountered in the human realm, and their names and designs were pretty different. But they've changed a lot since then, and honestly, I feel like their Faerie High versions are like their more definitive forms. So there's gonna be some overlap with this video and the video I made when I first tried to introduce Faerie High the first time. I kind of don't recommend you go watch that one. It's kind of old and I wasn't really sure what I was doing, but you have free will and I can't stop you, I guess. And I kind of don't want to take it down because it's kind of a relic of the past, I don't know. But enough with all this background yapping, let's dive into the actual characters. Suzu Bellflower. Okay, so I feel like I couldn't accurately call this world Faerie High if I didn't include a character that was basically the quintessential vision of a fairy, aka a tiny lady with wings. When I was researching more about fairies, I found out that in a lot of traditional folklore, there's actually pretty much no mention of fairies having wings. Depictions of winged fairies is actually something that got popular during the Victorian era, I believe, which influenced a lot of how we see fairies in the modern times. And like I mentioned in my first video, I want to combine modern and traditional folklore, and also just use whatever I think will be the most interesting. So, Suzu is a pixie. I decided that pixies would be the most stereotypical fairy type of fairy, partially because most people think of winged fairies when they hear the word pixie anyway, and also because I've kind of found that pixies in general have kind of vague and conflicting folklore around them. So, in this world, pixies are winged fairies who are usually short and can use their pixie dust to cast spells. Some of them can shrink down to tiny size, and some of them just are tiny size naturally. They're also allergic to iron, which is a recurring theme for a lot of fairies. I also kind of had this idea where pixies are linked to specific types of flowers, and for Suzu that would be a bellflower, unsurprisingly. Suzu is very bubbly and outgoing. She is the captain of the cheer team, and sadly I couldn't come up with a good pun for cheerleaders, so they're just called cheer fairies unless one of you has a better idea. She's also one of the main flyers for the team, for obvious reasons. She's quite popular, and she's usually pretty cheerful and peppy, but she also has quite the temper and is known to jinx fairies who set her off. Suzu always says they deserve it, but whether they actually do is kind of up to debate. Suzu's just someone who is very passionate about everything she does and everything she's interested in, which is why she can go from super high energy, super happy, to being really mad. She just cares a lot. One of Suzu's main interests is tinkering, and specifically she likes making jewelry. Whenever I draw her, I always try to make sure she's dressed up in tons of fun, custom-made jewelry pieces. She has multiple piercings in each of her ears, which I think is fun because I don't see a lot of dolls with that. And she always has lots of necklaces, bracelets, rings, or even belts. For simplicity's sake, I gave her a lot of beaded jewelry, kind of because it's easier to draw and it's not a lot of tiny details. But I also gave her some pieces that look a little bit more like a vine or a stem of a flower wrapped around her. A lot of her jewelry charms are either like generic flower shapes, specifically shaped like bellflowers, or they look a lot like butterfly wings, which is of course a nod to her being a winged fairy. And if it isn't obvious already, Suzu is very much inspired by Tinkerbell, who might just be the most famous fairy like ever in the modern times. In fact, the whole reason she's themed around bellflowers is because of Tinkerbell. Suzu's not really meant to be like Tinkerbell's daughter or anything. That just feels like a little too much like Ever After High to me, since like Tinkerbell isn't really classic folklore. But she is supposed to be a very, very obvious homage to her. Suzu's fashion is definitely very fairy core inspired, and I think the reason for that should be obvious. But I also try to incorporate styles that lean more into the mischievous and fun side of fairies, instead of like this ethereal otherworldly side. I don't know if that makes sense. I drew a lot of inspiration also from the Pixie Hollow fairies. I love how their outfits are all made of different flowers and leaves, and it's definitely something I played around with in Suzu's like different outfit pieces. Her top and her shorts are supposed to look like they're made of actual bellflowers. I also added some green flowers to the hems of her shirt and to the top of her shorts just to give her outfit a little bit more texture. Also, I think her shoulder straps kind of ended up looking like little flower stems, which is really fun. I also gave her a little bag around her hips, which I almost always give her a bag, mostly because she likes to make accessories and I think she would collect little doodads that I think she would use later, but also so she can carry around her pixie dust. Oh, and her spell phone. For her shoes, I gave her sandals because she's very like spring coated, and I think even with her giant wedge heels on, she would still be one of the shortest girls in her grade. And of course, I had to give her a pixie cut, because obviously, and also because I love pixie cuts and I had one for 5 years. Her hair is very much inspired by the Strange Magic fairies. Shout out anyone who likes that movie. It is honestly like a fever dream. Suzu's main color is pink, which according to the research I did anyway, kind of goes against pixie lore. Apparently pixies are actually known for wearing green. But I didn't want to put Suzu in green because I already have 4 other characters out of the main like 16 who have green as like one of their main colors. Rainy is one of them. Green is one of the main Faerie High colors overall, but I decided Suzu gets to be pink because pink is such like a springtime color, and I feel like it's just like bubbly and peppy and it fits her. Plus, the overall lineup was definitely missing a pink girl. However, I kept a bit of the pixie lore alive by making green her main accent color. The outfit I designed for her, and actually the outfit I'm designing for everyone in this video, isn't supposed to be like their signature look. I tried designing that in the first Faerie High video, the one that I'm kind of retconning. But here's that design if you're curious. Because Faerie High is very much inspired by Monster High and Ever After High, I'm kind of treating it like it's supposed to be a doll line, or the media created to sell a doll line. So the characters all get a lot of different outfits and hairstyles for different occasions. Honestly, it's something that's very difficult for me because I'm definitely not a fashionista. I live in sweaters and jeans and like literally never do anything with my hair. But coming up with several in-character outfits has honestly been really fun and like such a good challenge. I'd like to think I'm a lot better at giving characters outfits, but who can say? The outfits in this video are all supposed to be for a line that I imagine is called something like Fair Book Photo Day, or something like that. It's a spoof on Yearbook Photo Day, but I don't know if Fair Book is my best pun. But genuinely I'm struggling to come up with something better. I swear I have better puns down the line. But honestly, for some of them, I like the look that I gave them here better than their signature outfits that I designed forever ago. Here she is. I think she looks really cute, and honestly she's one of the ones where I prefer this outfit over her signature one. So maybe it will become her signature one, I don't know. I also think she looks like appropriately sassy, like she's on her way to cause some mischief or something. Now it's time to jump into the second subject of that old retconned video, who happens to be Suzu's best friend. Nora Neptune. Okay, so I feel like Nora was kind of the focus of the first video I made about Faerie High, and I might repeat myself a bit here, so bear with me. Also, I have no idea what was in the air when I drew her that first time, because even though that drawing is like way over a year old, I still think it's one of the prettiest things I have ever made. I may or may not have peaked artistically while drawing her. All joking aside though, Nora is definitely one of my favorite Faerie High characters. She's a mermaid and the daughter of King Neptune. She's also Suzu's best friend, even though the girls couldn't be more different. Nora is very quiet and introspective and doesn't express herself as loudly as many of her other classmates. She prefers thinking and listening over talking, probably because she has a magically enchanting voice that she is very embarrassed about. When she's with the right person though, she can turn into quite the chatterbox, at least for her. Fairies that know Nora well know that she cares very deeply about things, and she's just as passionate about her interests as Suzu is. It's just harder to see from the outside looking in because Nora is so internally focused. Since coming to Faerie High, she discovered watercolor painting and quickly fell in love with it. It's one of her favorite ways to de-stress and express herself. Nora is also pretty shy because this is her first time living on land, and she's still not fully used to land fairy customs. I decided to give Nora legs because I feel like mermaids leaving the ocean and coming on lands with a pair of legs is like something that's so firmly cemented in modern mermaid folklore, probably thanks to The Little Mermaid. But she still regains her tail when she goes back into the water, and I might need to design her tail form someday. While she's on land, her skin gets really dry, so she has to moisturize frequently. She also wears lots of sun hats because she's not used to being in direct sunlight. She's not wearing one in this design, mostly because hats are like really hard to draw. I also thought it would be really cool if she had these scale-like spots all over her body, almost like freckles, and they're supposed to glow in the dark like she's a deep sea fish. Nora's fashion is very obviously mermaid core inspired, so she has lots of pearls and seashells and fin-like shapes everywhere. I also like to take inspiration from different sea creatures when I'm brainstorming outfits for her, not just like stereotypical fish. In this outfit I'm designing for her, her sleeves are supposed to look like sea urchin skeletons, which if you haven't seen one, I'll put one up on the screen now. I think they look really beautiful and really interesting. Honestly, I could have pushed the idea a little bit further by adding some patterns that some of these skeletons have, but I don't think it looks too bad as it is. I also gave her a mermaid skirt. I think you can guess why. But instead of a traditional hem, I kind of made it bunch up and curl like the tentacles of an octopus. I'm honestly not sure how this would work in real life, but I really like the silhouette that it makes, so I'm keeping it. The lines of pearls sewn into her skirt are kind of supposed to look like the suckers of an octopus tentacle too. Her shoes are sea sponge and coral sandals. I imagine she prioritizes comfort when it comes to her footwear because she's not even used to wearing shoes at all. I'm also trying to get better at drawing different body types. So for Nora, I tried to give her broader shoulders and a stronger upper body like a swimmer might have, but I am still learning, so it might not read fully, but that's what I was going for. Nora's main color is teal. Though I feel like in this drawing I leaned more into darker shades of teal. But I think I prefer her in the brighter shades that I gave her in her first outfit. But honestly, I don't think it looks bad either, just different. I also gave her a lot of coral jewelry because in her first design I gave her a lot of pearls and seashells, and I wanted to broaden her horizons a bit. But don't worry, she still has both in this outfit. Here's her final design. I think she's really cute too. Though, honestly, I think I prefer her first design more. Like I said, I might have peaked with that drawing. Though this one works, and I think it's really good as an alternative outfit for her. Okay, now on to our third character who, fun fact, predates the Rainy and the Fairfolk version of the story. I actually brought him in from an older project that we don't have time to talk about. Orman. Orman, or Hal as his friends sometimes call him, is a dwarf and the oldest of 7 kids. And he is genuinely one of the hardest characters to design for. Not because I don't have a good idea for his fashion sense, but because said fashion sense is just really hard to design for without making him look like just some dude. But I'm trying, guys, I really am. Here's his signature design if you want a sneak peek. Halder is supposed to be someone who is very down to earth. He's level-headed, he's honest, and a lot of people come to him if they need advice about something. It's kind of ironic because Halder is the type of guy who definitely doesn't like being wrapped up in drama, especially romantic drama, but he also likes helping people out, and sometimes he just can't stop himself from sharing his opinion. He's definitely the type of guy who will offer you a step-by-step plan of how to fix all of the problems in your life, when really all you want is someone to listen to you cry or vent. But he just enjoys fixing things. And people.
I can fix that.
But his favorite place to fix things is the forge. He loves metalworking, which technically falls under the tinkering subject at Faerie High, which kind of encompasses like all craft making, I guess. But metalworking is specifically a specialized class because so many fairies at Faerie High are allergic to iron. Not Halder though. He mostly focuses on building tools and other things with useful purposes, but he can whip up an intricate, beautiful doodad if he wanted to. I definitely leaned more into Norse mythology's depiction of dwarves for him, mostly because that has a lot of modern pop culture influence as well. Most dwarves you'll see in like Lord of the Rings and D&D kind of seem to stem from that mythology. He's not really a reference to any specific dwarf in mythology or pop culture, but just kind of the general concept of one. Though obviously him having 6 younger siblings is a reference to Snow White and the 7 Dwarfs. I gave him long hair because I wanted him to be able to have more like Viking style braids if he wanted to. And also because apparently I like giving my male characters long hair. Like, y'all already saw Lachlan, and if you haven't, go check out part 1, wink wink. He also has these golden highlights because dwarves are often associated with ores and mining, and I felt like it was kind of referencing a vein of gold ore. And even though he's a high schooler, I also gave him some stubble or like a light beard, because dwarves are pretty famously associated with like having beards. And I don't know about you all, but when I was in high school, I definitely knew plenty of guys who already had facial hair, even as sophomores. So the idea of a high schooler having facial hair isn't that weird to me. Halder is supposed to be short and muscular, which isn't super clear because I'm drawing him standing by himself right now, and his legs just look really long because of the way I drew them. But in sketches I have done of the full lineup that are not very good, he is like one of the shortest characters. Halder's fashion is, according to Pinterest anyway, kind of blue-collar fashion inspired. It's supposed to be very practical and functional, which is what makes designing for him so hard. Because I feel like he would just wear really simple clothes, and Faerie High is supposed to be a little more elevated than that. We're inspired by fashion doll lines after all. But I wasn't really sure what he could wear aside from the overalls I gave him in his basic signature look. But I came across this jumpsuit on Pinterest, and I thought I could totally see him wearing it. So, that's the main inspiration behind his fair book look. And at some point when I was coming up with concepts for him, I realized that even though his outfits can be simple, his accessories can be kind of extra because he's a dwarf and can totally accessorize with gemstones. I gave his jumpsuit these geometric sections because I feel like strong lines and geometric shapes really fit his vibe. And the ones on his upper legs also double as pockets, so they're practical. I gave him almost these 2 like suspender looking loops coming out of his waist area, because I thought they kind of looked like those things on pants that are supposed to be for carpenters to hold hammers. I don't really know what they're called. I hope y'all know what I'm talking about here. His color palette is pretty warm and earth toned, and I like to stick to oranges and yellows because it's like gold. But I also add some splashes of a really cool light blue in the gemstones. I stuck the gemstones like pretty much all over his outfit. They're the buttons on his top, they're on his lapels, they're his entire watch. And I also added some to the bottom of his shoe, which I have done before if you see his signature design again. But this time I tried to make his shoes look more like a cross between a chunky sneaker and a work boot, and not just a work boot. I also gave him this gemstone earring that is supposed to look a little bit like a pickaxe hanging upside down. And voila! Here he is. I'm pretty happy with this design actually. I think I made him look appropriately elevated, but still in character. All in all, I'd say this is a pretty good alternate design for him. And now on to our final character, who I low-key forgot was even in the Rainy and the Fairfolk story at all because he had such a different name and personality and design. Soul Eander. So, Soul Eander is a salamander, and the first and probably most obvious instance of me giving a character a name that is a very obvious pun. But what do you expect? I was inspired by Ever After High and Monster High, and have you seen the names Mattel came up with? Like Frankie Stein, Apple White, Gingerbread House. Anyway, I am not apologizing for the puns. So, some of you might be confused about why I'm including a salamander in a character for a school for fairies. Because after all, salamanders are actual creatures. Well, it turns out salamanders are actually very much a part of fairy lore. In a lot of old folklore, salamanders are described as these lizards or spirits who can create or extinguish fire, which I think is kind of ironic because salamanders are actually amphibious. If you've seen Frozen 2, that little fire lizard guy is actually a salamander. This association likely comes from the fact that salamanders like to hibernate or hide out in logs, and when people in, ye olden times picked up these logs and used them as firewood, the salamanders would come running out because they didn't want to get, burned to death. But people would see this little lizard-like thing running out of a newly lit fire and make the association between the lizard and the fire and not the lizard and the logs. So, in the Faerie High universe, I am leaning fully into these amphibians being little fire starters. And yes, I am keeping them amphibians because I think that's both cool and also kind of funny. I also anthropomorphized them because, like I said, we were inspired by Monster High around here. And have you seen what they've done to dragons? So, if you were expecting Soul to look like the little guys in Croctopia from Wizard 101, I'm very sorry to disappoint. Like his name suggests, Soul has a pretty sunny disposition. He loves to smile, he loves to laugh, and he loves doing both of them with other fairies. Soul's also very athletic, and he loves pretty much any sport, as long as he gets to be up and moving. He's the MVF, Most Valuable Fairy, of many Faerie High sports teams. He's also a member of the art club, and usually makes art pieces with spray paint or glass, sometimes both. He can be a bit hot-headed at times, and quite a bit impulsive. That makes him a great athlete on the field, but can cause a lot of problems in his life off the field. So in my last video, I said there weren't really a lot of couples or romance in Faerie High. And aside from Rainy and Lachlan, I'd say the only real official pairing are Soul and Nora. They're not really an official couple, but they definitely have a strong flirtationship going on currently. I just think it's cute. She's really shy and introverted, he's super extroverted and the sunshine boy. He's fire, she's water, but he's an amphibian, so he's also kind of water. I don't know, I just think the vibes are cute. Since Soul is an athlete, I tried to give him more of a muscular build, though I also gave him a slightly lankier body type because salamanders are kind of long and skinny looking. When I was coming up with his design, I also debated a lot on how to make him actually look like a salamander. Real life salamanders have these spots all over their body, and I knew I wanted to include them somehow, but I wasn't sure if I should give him the same coloring that a salamander would have. mostly because I wasn't sure how well outfits would read on him. In the end, I decided that he was going to be orange, with darker orange spots all over his body, and his clothes would be dark to kind of mimic how salamanders actually look. I also gave him this little fire-like shape at the end of his tail. Salamanders don't have it, but I thought it was fitting for him. I envision it as this like fin-like thing on the end of his tail, but he can make it burst into real flames if he wants to. Same with his hair, which by the way is spiky and kind of slicked back like actual flames. So Soul's fashion sense took a while for me to like actually pin down. I knew he was gonna have some like athleisure aspects to his looks, but a lot of the stuff I was finding was just really not interesting. At some point I started incorporating more streetwear style pieces into his outfits, and I decided that was the missing piece. I imagine that Soul always kind of looks dressed for summer, and he prefers shorter or baggier clothes that are easier to move around in. Hence the muscle crop top, I don't know what else to call it, and the long baggy shorts. Also, the unfinished hems of his shorts are supposed to be jagged and look a little bit like flames. I don't know how obvious that is. You can't see it super well, but he is also wearing a swimsuit under his shorts because he's still an amphibian, and he still will totally swim at any opportunity he can. He's also wearing slides, kind of because of the athleisure thing, but also because I don't really see him as someone that likes wearing shoes. I swear I've talked so much about shoes in this video. I usually don't. I also gave him a lot of gold accessories, which I think really ties his outfit together. He also has sun patterns on his shoes and shirt, both as a reference to his name, Soul, and because the sun is essentially a giant ball of fire, and that felt like a little more subtle than putting a literal flame on him. But then I couldn't resist putting a little flame patch on his shorts anyway, so. And here he is. I actually really like how he turned out. Honestly, I think this might be his actual signature look because his first original look was, not great. But yeah, here we go. All 4 of them together. Their heights are not accurate right now because I wanted them to each fill up the frame, okay? But that is 4 more Faerie High characters down. So now we have like, what, 9 more to go? But thank you so much if you've watched this far. Seriously, I love Faerie High, and I love that so many of you seem to love this concept as much as I do. I'm excited to share the rest of the main cast with you, so stay tuned for the next video. Have a wonderful day, and keep on creating. Amalu out.